Hi, I'm Rochelle Kopp, and I'm a consultant, and I often talk to Japanese people who are thinking of changing jobs and maybe even joining a non-Japanese company, but they seem to have trouble knowing kind of how to go about the process. So I wanted to share some thoughts today about what you can keep in mind as you're thinking about a job search. This chart was created by a consultant in Europe, and she calls it the purpose-driven career chart. And it appeared in 2012 on her website, which she calls bullshit elimination. So what this shows here is a great way to think about you and the world of work. And so we've got four overlapping spheres here. And when you think about choosing a career, you need to think about, first of all, what are you really great at doing? What are your skills? Now, to be quite honest, when I ask Japanese people what they're really good at, many people don't have an answer. If I ask Japanese people, what are your weaknesses or what are you bad at, everyone has lots of answers. So I really want you to think about what are your skills? What are you great at doing? You also need to think about what do you love doing? In other words, what do you enjoy in your work? Right? And so you have to really start to think, here's when I feel happy doing things, and here's when I don't feel happy doing things. So you need to start paying attention to how you feel about certain tasks. What tasks make you feel engaged or excited? Or do you feel are enjoyable? You also need to look at, what does the world need? What is a very, very important skill that is in demand, that will make some contribution to the world, right? Also, you have to think about, what are you going to be paid for? There's many things that the world needs, but then no one's going to pay for it. So in order to have something be a career, you need remuneration. And so you really need to think about, what is the market demand for that? And if you kind of look at some of the overlaps, if you love something, you're great at it, but no one needs it and you're not paid for it, that's just play, right? If you love something and the world needs it, but no one's going to pay for it, you're not really great at it, we call that a calling, right? Service is something the world needs and you're paid for it, out of a sense of kind of social obligation. And then something you're paid for and you're great at is your occupation. You might not love it, but it's what you do, right? So we want to try and get beyond all of those and put all four elements together. And that's where we have the red dot in the middle, and that's what you want to be aiming for in your career. Now, how do you find out what you love? You have to really pay attention to your feelings, as I mentioned. How do you know what you're great at? Some of it is having your own judgment about your work, but also seeking feedback from others, from your colleagues, from your superiors, perhaps from your clients, and find out what they think you're good at. But you have to combine that with your own observation as well, right? How do you find out what the world needs and what you can get paid for? That really involves having an open mind and going out and gathering information. And one thing I think is very important for that is networking. And a lot of Japanese business people that I know, their world is very narrow. They only talk to people within their own company, and they only socialize with people within their own company. And that gives them lots of wonderful ties and makes for a very nice family kind of atmosphere in firms. But if you're thinking that you might want to leave that company and go out into the wider world, you need to start getting more information. And so you want to look for professional groups or study circles, people who are in your profession, who are having meetups or different meetings, or maybe they have a Facebook group or a blog or a conference. It's important to kind of start getting out, meeting people, and talking to people. And I know quite a few Japanese professional groups in various different areas that have lots of different meetings and events, but you have to go and look for them, right? Also, I recommend keeping in touch with your school alumni and any groups of old friends that you have, is to keep in touch with them, again, to get information about what's happening outside. Right? But it's really going out there and gathering it. Also, I think it's very important to have diversified information sources, and so to be reading about what's going on. And I personally am a news junkie, and I do a lot of Twitter, and I find it's a great way to get information. Also, with you're great at it, when you get to the point of applying to the job, you're going to have to prove that you're great at it. So the question is, how do you do that? And so one thing that I want you to keep in mind and be prepared for to use in casual conversations and also job interviews is something called the STAR method. Now, the STAR method is all about giving examples in a very clear and persuasive way. Because you can say, I'm a good cook, or you can tell a story about how you cooked. So with STAR method is an acronym, and it stands for situation, task, action, and result. So you want to tell these 4 elements in order to tell your story. And so let's talk about cooking. Like we said, you can say you're a great cook. And maybe you're also good at organizing things, and you're good at doing things really quickly. You can say that, but it's much more effective if you illustrate that. So you can do that with STAR. So here was the situation. It was right before Thanksgiving, and I found out that some of my American friends living in Tokyo were feeling very lonely because Thanksgiving in the United States is a time that you usually spend with your families. And they were here in Japan, and they couldn't eat all the foods that you normally eat for Thanksgiving. That's the situation. Task. I decided I wanted to do something to help them so that they could have a more enjoyable time and enjoy Thanksgiving even though they were in Tokyo. So that was your task. Action. I was able to research some foreign supermarkets that provided pre-cooked turkey, so I could get some turkey. And I also did some research on the internet to find out what typical things Americans eat for Thanksgiving, like cranberry relish or pumpkin pie. So I couldn't find the exact ingredients from the US, but I found some Japanese things that were very close. And for example, I made pie with kabocha, which is very a Japanese squash, very similar to pumpkin. So that was your action. Then the result. My American friends were so surprised, and they were so happy, and it was really great for me to see their smiling faces as they ate the meal that I prepared for them. Right? So that's just a little imaginary example, but you can see that that tells a story, and it shows the person who's listening, how do you think? How do you do things? What's your style of action? Because that's what an employer wants to know if they're going to hire you. So if you can think of some stories about yourself that you can share with people, that's going to help you in interviews, but it's also something you can use in conversation when you're meeting people from outside your company to help them understand who you are and what you offer. So those are a few recommendations. So I wish you the best in determining what it is that you want to do and finding those opportunities.